All right, we're going to be moving on to your Q&A segment now. What is APSA's mission statement verbatim, and what does it mean to you? Do you think that APSA is successful in fulfilling its mission?
Our mission statement states that we are here to unite diverse students and teach them about our cultural identities. And what it means to me is that we are an organization that is open to everyone, even students that are not part of the API community. And therefore, we should be teaching about our culture and also learning ourselves as an executive board about this culture. And then what was the second part?
Do you believe that APSA is successful in fulfilling its mission thus far?
I do believe that Absa has been successful in fulfilling this mission. However, depending on what your differing opinions are about how much more cultural we should be or how much more political we should be as an organization, it's different for everyone, but I think that we could be taking stronger stances on cultural issues and political issues.
The president is responsible for settling controversial issues within executive board that often leave the fellow board members emotionally charged. How would you tackle this challenge and ensure that the executive team remains productive when navigating these polarizing opinions in order to maintain one cohesive APSA voice?
I think a really important aspect about being president is maintaining an objective mindset. And so not going into any board meeting with specific emotionally charged opinions is going to be really helpful, especially with dealing with problems such as this. But with having to deal with these issues, I hope to hold workshops that talk about coming to meetings with open-mindedness rather than closed-mindedness, which I think has really been an issue this past year because we come to meetings closed off and closed-minded, and therefore we become defensive when it comes to things like criticism. And so I hope that from the start I can build a foundation where we're supposed to be open-minded to criticism and open-minded to new ideas and not take it so personally.
In the past, how have you responded to, evaluated, and learned from your mistakes, both your own and those of your team?
I think that especially after serving on board this past year, I've been able to learn a lot from my weaknesses, especially like I said before, it's really important for us to remain objective, but this past year I've learned that that's something I really need to work on, is not to be so emotionally charged when it comes to taking criticism. And so that's something I've had to work on, and I think that's something that I will continue to work on if I were elected as president. And then having to deal with situations where I make a mistake, I always own up to my mistakes, and I hope that I will be able to gain the respect and build that foundation with my board that it's okay that if I make a mistake, we'll just work through it.
What is the difference between a good president and a great president? What are the qualities and attributes that distinguish these two?
I think the difference between a good president and a great president is honestly their ability to be assertive with their leadership, but not in the way that it will negatively affect their board, but positively influence them in the right direction of their own leadership. So as president, I shouldn't be on this hierarchical position where they are too scared to come up to me and talk to me. I really want to establish that relationship where I'm both approachable and assertive, and that I have their respect so that when I do say something, it really resonates with them. It doesn't just pass through them.
APSA is one of, if not the largest student organization on campus outside of Greek fraternities and sororities. APSA therefore can have a very powerful voice towards any campus-wide issues or referendum. How would you use and mobilize APSA's large member base in a way that would enact a positive impact on the campus community?
Yeah, so I talked about that in my speech because I feel like in my vision, I really do want to have a greater impact on the campus and our community because APSA is the largest organization and we do have the biggest voice, but we really haven't been utilizing it to the potential that it could be. Like things such as the ARC referendum, I would have wanted to have a vote with executive board and try and decide if we were going to take a stance on it and whether or not this is what we wanted APSA to reflect. And I want to continue that with other important decisions such as that, because I don't think that we can just overlook something as big as an ARC referendum, because even though it's not directly impacting the API community, it's affecting us as students, which is part of our identity. And so we should still be using our voice to influence that.
As president, you have to give up a lot of time since there's a large amount of behind-the-scene work that gets completely unnoticed or brushed under the rug. How will you balance all your responsibilities and avoid burnout in order to provide direction to your executive board?
Okay, so I talked about in my speech how I am really on top of my work, and if you know me, I honestly am really true to that. I think the biggest difference between a procrastinator and a student who does their work on time is motivation. And I think it's important, especially as an e-board member, to have a really good motivation to be on board. And if you don't, then why are you even here? And so my motivation is my vision and fulfilling that vision. And until that is fulfilled, I will not be burnt out and I will not stop working hard.
As the president, it is your job to represent the organization as a whole. You are held responsible for the actions of the organization and its member. In the event that an e-board member or GBMer gets in trouble with an outside entity during an Absa event, how would you handle this situation?
Well, first, I guess it's situational based depending on how intense of a violation the person made. But first I would pull aside that member that was at our event and talk to them. And if it was something that was in violation of like SLL rules or just student organization rules, then I would unfortunately have to make sure that they aren't at Absa events, because that's what the president is required to do. But if it's something that we can work through, then I would definitely just communicate with them.
All right, and those were all the questions that we have. So thank you.